with open meeting laws. And the first item on the agenda would be the minutes of February 12th. I would entertain a motion for the minutes.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Bradford. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Farrell. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 And any opposed? None opposed, that motion carries. Next would be council representative report, Alderperson Caravello.
And it looks like all we had activity-wise was at the March 12th, 2024 meeting was R28 and R29 of 2024 were approved.
All right, are there any questions on that? Any questions on that? Hearing none, next would be the staff report, and that would be Director Munns Pritchard. And you can just push.
I didn't prepare anything yet. So I'm starting to look through stuff. Right now we're working on getting a lot of the applications and stuff online and like starting to get them so that they're not going to be paper copies coming into the office, and we're working on getting that. I have Nick, the new zoning administrator. He starts on Monday. So, well, not today, next Monday. So if you guys see things that you'd like me to look into, I'm going to start looking into our ordinance and all of that stuff. Please come talk with me, and that way I can get it on my radar. Okay?
Any questions for Chris? And I'm trying to figure out this echo here. And it's got to be, there it is. Found it. For some reason, once in a while when I log in, my Zoom, which is a separate desktop, cranks the volume on me. But it's happened so many times now, I figured out where to find it, which is scary. We'll go on to the next item, which is the approval of the conditional use permit for the proposed two-flat located at 808 West Main Street. And then who would like to start out, Rick or Chris? You want to, I can cue something up too if you'd like.
I'll just give a quick comment. So one thing, we do need to hold a public hearing at some point. Typically that would be before the Plan Commission, but that wasn't noticed for a public hearing tonight. But there is discretion in the ordinance to have the council do that. So the Plan Commission can still act on this conditional use permit tonight, and the other one, and the public hearing will happen before the Common Council. So that's a statutory requirement that needs to be followed, but that's the only, I guess, context I want to add before we begin the discussion tonight.
Can you all hear us okay out there? Okay, because I can't hear it as like I normally do. So as long as you can hear us. I know there's a few people that want to speak tonight. What we'll do is we'll kind of go through the project a little bit, and certainly you can speak to it, but what I would encourage you to do is once we notice it for the public hearing, then I would encourage you to come speak at the public hearing, because I think that's actually the testimony that would ultimately be used to make a decision. Is that right?
Well, we could receive comments tonight, and it can go into the consideration. Public hearing comments would also go into the record, so they'd be used into support or for whatever decision the Plan Commission makes.
All right, thanks for the clarification. So then what we can do is we can kind of go through the proposal, and then obviously the resolution is in there. You can just tell me if there's something specific you want to see, but I guess I'll just start with this document.
Can I explain some stuff?
Yeah, please do.
I had some calls earlier in my office, so I just want to explain what it is we're doing here. So really fast, you have zoning districts, and what you have is a permitted use, so like a house, and then you have additional uses that you can add on through a conditional use permit. So this one happens to be a 2-flat. Later on, we're discussing one for a juice bar downtown, like a smoothie bar. So what we're looking at right now is a conditional use that we can add on requirements for this particular project that's going on. So if you guys have questions over that, like how that works, feel free to just ask after Tim gets done explaining the project, okay?
All right, so the project at 808 West Main Street, as Chris mentioned, is converting the two flat. And then in the packet here, Chris has put together kind of a map and some recommendations based on her findings. And certainly between now and when you go to act on it, if there's any questions you have, we'll be here to answer them. Is there anything you want to highlight in your recommendations?
So in years past, what I've done is, and this is partly directed at the plan board too, I normally just do an overview of the project, which Tim did a great job. It's just, what this is it per our ordinance, a two flat, which is one stacked on top of the other, per definition, our definition, requires a conditional use permit in this particular zoning district. I always ask that because we can require above and beyond those general requirements, they have to be, somewhat reasonable. I have 1 through 5 that I've required, and I like to read through those just so you guys understand what I'm asking for. So number 1 is compliance with the state dwelling code. Please note that per zoning code, the dwelling unit type may not be split into additional residents. So this is number 1, and that's directly from our ordinance. So you can only have the 2 units. Anything above that, you can't have, and that's per our ordinance. Okay, so this is just the 2 flat. It can't go on later and have a 3 or 4 flat, like split. Number 2 is the property also falls under the residential historic district overlay zoning district, which means there might be additional approvals needed. I'm kind of running into some interesting maps, and I don't know what's accurate. I wanted to make sure that's in there so it's noted, because the last thing I want to do is approve this without checking that, right? So number 3 is, as the current building sits, it does not meet setback regulations. All improvements need to stay within that existing footprint. So you can see the footprint. If they start going outside of that footprint, because I'm sure it doesn't meet front yard setbacks because the road's been widened, you guys all know how that happens, we need to stay within that footprint of the building, okay? Number 4 and number 5 are just the general warnings that I always put in. Number 4 is approved by engineering, building inspector, fire inspector, and any other city departments, meaning they still have to pull all their permits, right? And number 5 is any other conditions identified by city staff or you folks.
So, do you have a question? Oh, okay. I have just a couple,
Sure.
Chris. So number 2, you said it may fall under the residential historic zoning district. So that means if they want to do some work to the home, is that like on the outside of the home, or what would that cover?
I believe so. I wanted to put it in here because I wasn't sure. Some of our maps aren't up to date on our website, and I'm trying to work through that. There's been a lot going on since, like, in the last 4 weeks. So, but when I started checking, there is a map that's showing this as one of the overlay districts, and I want to make sure that if it is in that area, that it is, all the proper stuff is approved. But you can see below on, when you look, you can see the red circle on, and that's actually showing the map that I had found, that's actually from our website online and calling out the district. I know that Matt, the previous attorney, had done some work, I think, with an overlay district for the historic group. I don't know when this map was done in conjunction with that and if it's changed. But again, we need to note it, because the last thing we want to do is approve something that's not right.
Did you have a question or a comment, Alder Maskey?
I do. Is this house a local landmark?
I don't believe it is, but again,
And
I'm on my 4th week here, and we've had a lot of crazy projects.
so if it's a local landmark, then it goes under the venue of the historic
Yep.
commission. Just being in the overlay district does not really mean anything. It
Okay.
just means that it's within the boundaries, and and it can be eligible for tax credits.
Okay. But
But
it's
unless
considered
it's-
like not contributing? Is that kind of how it
Yeah.
works? Okay.
But if it's a local landmark, then they have say-so in any exterior work that's done
Okay.
on the house.
And that's why I did put May, fall,
Yeah.
because,
And we do have a Landmarks Commission meeting Thursday night.
Yep.
So I'm thinking we should be able to get some clarification from that group. I don't know if it would really affect the decision here as much as
No.
it would be when they pull the permit to
Yep,
do
it
the
would.
exterior.
Doing this right now as well. Like, we also have a appropriate.
so just FYI, we're not open to the public yet, and when we do, I'd appreciate it, but we have to have you come up and speak, and say your name, mainly because the person that's gonna have to take the notes needs to make note of it, so, yeah.
And then my other question was, let's see. What was it? Oh, so as far as the setback, so it's considered non-conforming, possibly, or?
I think the front steps look like they're really close, and that's pretty normal in these areas. When you get, a street like Main Street, and it keeps getting widened, I mean, you think about that, at one point in time, it probably had a decent front yard on it. It was funny, I was trying to look up information on the house, and I could only get, it was built in 1900, which is when they can't find, like, that's normally what the appraiser puts down when it doesn't have information on it. So, I couldn't get much more than that. But you can see in the rear, at one point in time, it was sectioned off additionally, and that's why there's that house behind it with the long driveway. At one point in time, this was a really long lot, and they mimicked each other, and then somebody sectioned that off and then sold it again. And I don't know when that happened, but you can just tell that's what happened. When I get more familiar with where stuff is, I will try to get you guys the survey history on it as well. I always tack that on the bottom of my planner's reports, just so you have it, because it helps, so you can see kind of the evolution of the property.
So, and one of the reasons I brought that up is, if it's non-conforming, are there restrictions on what they can do with it, or
Well,
how
and
much
that's
they
part
can
of why-
spend on it?
Well, I would consider an existing non-conforming. As
Okay.
long as it stays in the footprint, they are okay. When you start, if they can't, for example, if they have to have a second egress out of the top and there has to be additional stairs that go into a setback area that they can't meet, it could be a problem, and they need it noted. Does that make sense?
It does make
Okay.
sense. I just want to make sure the applicant understands that if they start going out from the building, that they might run into some other questions that need to be answered.
And that
we'd
is-
be glad to get those answers.
Yeah,
for
and
them.
that's exactly when you guys approve this, I'd ask that you approve it with conditions, because we want it, that's one of the conditions, they have to stay in the existing footprint.
Anybody else have any questions? Alderperson Mayeski.
I hope the applicant is aware that if they are going to be putting a breezeway connection from house to garage, that the house has a frost footing, so that that structure does not float. That's something that will be brought up by the building inspector, just so they're aware there's a cost. You're talking digging down 4 feet, putting in a footing along that side of the garage, so that it doesn't move. So,
Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
If I could just, add one more comment about conditional uses, because Chris did a good job of explaining the concept. I think Matt has given you all his presentation or his spiel about 2017 Act 67. So that really has limited the discretion that the city has in denying conditional use permits. So really, you have a lot of standards in your ordinance. If the applicant meets or agrees to meet all of those standards, basically state law says, unless you've got substantial evidence to say otherwise, you have to approve the conditional use permit. So basically your ordinance is saying, yes, this is consistent with where it's located, this potential use. And really the focus at the Plan Commission is the conditions that you're going to put on the use. So if you have other conditions that you'd want to put on there now, this would be the time to recommend it.
Thank you.
And I don't know if you want to cover the conditions now, or do you want to
I already covered them.
pretty much cover them?
Yeah, I covered all of them.
Okay.
Do you guys, I would assume that you don't have any questions.
All right. Go ahead.
I mean, my only question, but I think it's covered in here by all the approvals that are required under number 4. Just regarding, and since you brought up ingress and egress, if they're adding, like, from the attic, turning that into a dwelling unit and that sort of thing, that, you know, that would have to require something that would allow exit out of the building some way, somehow, and stuff like that, but I'm guessing that all falls under those approvals.
It does. So and what's interesting is when you are a 1 and 2 unit, you can fall under residential. But once you hit 3 units, it now has to be commercial grade building. And so it significantly makes things more complicated, to be quite frank with you. You have to have sprinkler systems. There's firewall. I mean, you still have to have firewall. Like it was when you're talking about the frost line, you still have to have that firewall between your garage and the house. That, I'm guessing, this looks like an old carriage house to me, to be quite frank with you guys. So I'm guessing that that's probably going to have to be put in even just with this, you know, just this level. So when you start getting into those, that's why I don't know that having any more units in these buildings like this is even financially feasible when you start talking about those upgrades that have to be done. So,
And didn't you say that the, this can only have 2 units? You can't have a 3rd unit?
You cannot
so
have 3.
Nothing above the 3rd floor.
Yep.
However, can that 3rd floor be used as considered part of the 2nd floor unit?
So I think that, and you guys have plans, I think, in there right now. I think that the 3rd unit, the 3rd floor is actually one of the bedrooms. So there is a bedroom. Per state requirements, you have to have 2 egresses. A window does count as an egress. So you can have the door and the window count as an egress. That's how the fire department would get to you. So if you ever, and somebody's like, you can just sleep here and it doesn't have a window and you only have one door, it is not a real bedroom. So just an FYI. I couldn't quote the exact fire code, but that is.
All right, any other questions? So we don't really have it set up for a public hearing, but there are people that showed up that do want to speak. So if you guys are okay with it, I would allow them to speak. And basically, the rules are you have 3 minutes. We'd like you to state your name and your address so we can have it in the record. You can come up to the podium there. You can straighten out the mic to adjust it to your height. And then there's a button that you push. And when you see the red lights come on, you know it's live. So having said that, I think there's a couple people signed up to speak who would like to go first. All right, come on up.
Hi, my name is Todd Maas. I'm representing the project at 808 West Main, so we'll use that as my address. My partners Connie and George are also here. They're familiar. They're both residents of Stoughton. I'm a licensed general contractor and a realtor, so when we put in a conditional use permit, everything that are the conditions are obviously steps that we will be taking. It is a 2-flat project that we're looking to do. We've been actually waiting through several cycles because of the changing of the zoning team, so we are actually looking for motion on this today because we do have a certificate of appropriateness in with the Historical Society for the breezeway. So the first map we looked at, like you've learned, we were outside of that, so that was not on our radar. And then when we put in our building permit, they said, hey, we're not sure. So we just did it out of a formality just to get ahead of it. So that certificate of appropriateness is actually pending this meeting. It's already been approved for the breezeway. And our building permit is already submitted and pending this as well. So we are looking for motion tonight, not waiting for the next meeting so that we can actually get started. But we are looking to get started through our planning phase. So that does mean building permits and inspections and all that. It is going to be a 2-unit with the attic is going to be finished. There's substantial trades, structural, basically everything you can imagine except for the roof needs to be done to the property. So it needs a lot of love. No one's lived there since 2014. So as you can imagine, it will be completely brought current and meet all current building codes. So we're just here to answer questions primarily and hope that you guys can get behind it. Is there any specific questions that you had with the application or anything that you'd like? And we are going to do all the proper footings for the breezeway, so that for sure will be done. There's an access to the basement that will also have to be repoured, so that whole portion that is currently not doing great will get the attention it needs while we build the walls to the breezeway. And it is staying within the footprint of the current structure, so there's no plans to ever have it encroach on any of the lot lines any more than it already has been. Everything's inside. So just got to put it back together.
So I have just one quick one. Is this going to be owner occupied or you're renting out both units?
It's an investment property, so we're renting out both units immediately upon it getting finished.
And do you have other rental properties that you manage?
I do. In Stoughton I do, and in Mazo-Manny and in Madison. So right up on Eisenhower's house I own also.
Oh, okay.
So I like Stoughton. I plan on buying more here.
All right. Does anybody else have any questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
then it looks like we have one other person signed up to speak. Come on up.
Probably me.
Oh, you want to speak?
Yeah, I'm signed up. I signed up today. Tom Gomash.
Oh, Tom?
Yep.
Okay, yep, go ahead.
I live at 209 South Harrison Street. I'm up the street about 1.5 blocks. I had some questions. I've already noticed they've been starting to do some pretty substantial construction with ripping stuff out, stuff like that. I didn't know if there's building permits approved yet or not for the deconstruction that they've been doing.
Our building permits are pending. Right now we're just working on the HVAC to get it. Currently the heat doesn't work in the place. That needs remediation for water damage and asbestos. So we're taking everything bad out. We're not putting anything new in. We haven't done any work that needs to be inspected yet. And we're the owners of the property, so I haven't done anything but clean up the property that I own.
Okay. My other concerns is some of the noise that's been going on. I've had cars leaving the construction site screaming up and down my street on South Harrison. I've yelled. It's been a concern of mine. Cars revving up at 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm sometimes working third shift. Coming home, I'm trying to sleep. Talked to him once. Well, we're just trying to fix it. I said, I understand that, but some of us are trying to sleep around here. My other neighbor, Connie, I'm sure heard me yell that day. So I'm concerned that there appears to be some construction going on. I'm wondering if the city inspector has been in there to look at anything. And I'm concerned with some of the noise and stuff going on. That's what I got.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else wish to speak? Come on up, sure.
You want me to come back up?
No, we're fine. It's not supposed to be an engagement.
Yeah.
We're just trying to.
My name is Sherry Evans Piper. I live at 724 West Main Street. I'm just the other side of Harrison on the corner there. Couple of concerns. It's in a historic district. I mean, the street sign says Main Street, Harrison Street, and then above it, it says Northwest Historical District. The thing with that is single-family homes. I'm concerned about a couple of things. And one is the inside. If this is in a historical district, the house was built in 1900, what's the renovation going to look inside modern? I mean, I've been in that house, I can't tell you how many hundreds of times. Everything was done to make it look like it belonged in 1900. And to me, it's turning into a facade. So I'd like to know what is being done, because I went and had these printed off today that showed me the upstairs and the downstairs. And the dining room's gone. It's now a living room. I don't know if all the cabinets have been saved or not. I mean, they had antique cabinets in the kitchen where it was glass on both sides, where you could get stuff from the dining room, where you could get stuff from the kitchen. The dining room has been reduced to, it looks like a work area or something you might sit in, and this is just a guesstimate on my part. High chairs. The kitchen upstairs, I can't see where the people are going to eat. It looks like a galley kitchen to me. I'm just concerned in preserving what a 1910 house looked like. And our kitchen window, I can see right into where the dining room was, and all I see is studs and all the way through. And I'm just concerned with if we're going to start turning the Northwest Historical District homes into multifamily dwellings. Okay? I mean, that represents something. Our house across the street was built in 1910. Everything we've done has been to preserve what it's supposed to look like, except siding. The wood was shot, so we did side the house. But other than that, what we've done inside and outside, it would look like a house from 1910. And the other concern I have are traffic issues. I know they're going to park in the garages and on the brick driveway, but what if some Saturday night, both parties, one has a birthday party and the other tenant has a promotion party from work? So they invite people. Where are they going to park? Because when you come down Main Street, and this is even when it was a single family house, people park in the street, which they can do. But in the wintertime, it gets even worse. The city does a fabulous job of plowing, don't get me wrong. But it narrows the street down, and there are times when people have to turn from Main Street, like me, because my driveway's on Harrison. I have nowhere to go because the cars are so close together in the winter in terms of from the curb and the car coming down. I literally have to wait till that one goes, or if there's two or three behind it, because I don't have room to get my car through to get up to my driveway. They used to have a yellow curb until they redid Harrison Street. It has disappeared. The other thing I was thinking that could be added to that for traffic purposes, to make it wide enough down there, because you can't make the street any wider, is they could put up those signs that are about so big that say no parking from here to the curb, because some cars park literally that far down, and that makes it difficult. And if the tenants have a bunch of people come over, you know, if there's 4 couples upstairs, 4 downstairs, that's 8 cars. Where are you going to put 8 cars? They're going to try to park as close to that place as possible, and it's almost impossible to get out of your driveway when they're parked right up next to it. So I'm concerned about how that end of the street is going to function when they have friends over, which they have every right to do, but where are they going to put their cars, and how are you going to safely get from Main Street, a main thoroughfare, on and off of it from Harrison? It's tight right now. So those are my 2 points.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, anybody else? Okay, hearing none. Are there any questions from any of the commissioners? So the way I'm understanding this, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is if the commissioners would like, they could take action tonight, but it wouldn't really be effective until the city council takes action, which we'd have to have a public hearing. So more than likely, it wouldn't get to the city council until the meeting on be 2 weeks from tomorrow. That's if we can get the notice in.
Yeah, so regardless, the council would have to take act, like, Plan Commission would make a recommendation that goes to the council. Council has the final decision authority. It's just a matter of the Plan Commission providing a recommendation tonight, and then the public hearing at the council meeting in 2 weeks, or either the next meeting in April or the first meeting in May, depending on when we can get the notices out. So I guess it's up to the plan commission's discretion if they would like to have the opportunity to do a public hearing. It would require a special meeting, essentially, because there are certain deadlines where you have to provide a recommendation to the council, and if it's not done within, I think it's 45 days of the complete application being submitted, it automatically goes to the council regardless. So, yeah.
So I apologize because some of this is just, if you look through the packet, it's got 2 different planners on it. It's just the transition that's going on right now. Notices, like paper notices were sent out. I don't think it made it to the paper in time. Is that my understanding?
Yeah, I was gonna say, this is like the notice.
It was noticed, but just not as a public hearing for tonight.
Right.
Yeah,
That's what I received as public notice.
I think it might have got mailed out, but I don't know if it got in the paper.
That's the
And
concern.
it has to be in
And
the
there-
paper.
Yeah.
And, but again, this is like we sat through this handout where, I know this isn't an exchange, but like, forgive me.
And this is all in statute, so we cannot act unless we have the public hearing. Like, we
My-
cannot make a final decision without the public hearing.
Regardless, it has to, the conditional use permits here in the city of Stoughton, and it's different in every city.
Yeah.
This has to go to council to get approved. Like, it's a recommendation at this board, and then it goes to council to get approved. So it would have to go regardless to council. We need to make sure it's noticed properly, and that's what we're discussing. The reason I brought up the letters is I wanted to point out that the letters were sent out to the adjacent neighbors. That's why I brought it up. So regardless if they decide to give a recommendation or not, it doesn't matter. It'd have to go to council.
Any questions procedurally?
So do we have to have another like a special plan commission meeting to approve this so it can go to
I don't
council?
know. You could make a recommendation tonight and still send it to council,
Okay.
and then council would hold the public hearing and have the benefit of your recommendation.
Okay.
And then in the meantime, what'll happen is the landmarks will have to take a look at the COA. And I don't know if that, he said it was approved, but I don't know if it's been at our landmarks commission meeting yet. I just started attending them in the last couple months.
Yeah, I mean,
as it-
we're seeing them, we're gonna be meeting with all of them on Thursday because we have, the review of we're there on Thursday, so it's something we can discuss
Yeah.
with them.
So they wouldn't be able to pull a permit until that's approved. And then obviously they don't really have a project until this is approved by the council. So I would caution to get too deep into it until the approvals are done because you're doing that at your own risk.
Yeah, understood. It's Wisconsin, MEP, you know what I mean? So-
Yeah. And the good news is our new zoning person is scheduled to start next week. So yeah, we've been in transition, but we're getting there. I can at least see the top of the pool now. Did you have a question?
I do, and it's really, I don't see anything that prevents this with those conditions. But as a citizen who has the same parking type situation sometimes on Prairie Street, and that turning, when parking is allowed to the corner, I'm just wondering, when we do permit, things like this going forward, is there some kind of where we can put that no parking back in for a certain amount, so when you do make that turn off, you're not hitting a car, motorcycle, or a person?
I can actually, I've actually talked about this exact issue on this exact one. And it's funny, so what I did is I got onto the Google machine, if you will, and I went through, and there is the yellow striping in this area for 2 years prior, and then it's not there now. I question if it's not going to show back up eventually, if it's because of the, rebuild on Main Street area through the DOT. I don't know. I feel a little weird talking about it because it's not my department, but I think it's a reasonable request,
Can we add something about that being looked at, whether there's a sign to to do that, or, because even now with construction going on,
Yeah.
I mean, I know as a realtor, you get the construction trucks out, and you can't even see past them, a car, sometimes you can. So is there a way to talk to streets and find out if we can get, even if it's temporary right now, get something done out there?
Yeah,
Well, and
there's
oh,
a couple
sorry.
things. I mean, if we do something temporary, the police chief can order that sign to be put up. It's usually just a wooden sign on a stake. I believe there is an ordinance that you can't park any closer than 15 feet from an intersection. So it's possible that if it's that short of an area, maybe people aren't aware of that ordinance.
No.
Well, and I'm sure we have.
I wouldn't be.
Yeah,
You see that
yeah.
all over
Yeah.
town.
Yeah.
We have what's called normally, and I don't have ours memorized yet, right? But normally you have what's called a vision triangle, and there's no parking within that vision triangle. Like, that's just, yeah.
You know, the
yeah.
issue is, let's face it, I mean, unless it's posted,
Yep.
I've parked where it's not posted that I
Right.
shouldn't park.
So then the
So I
last
think
part-
that's a city issue that maybe
Yeah.
we need to talk
The
to
last part,
streets,
the
because
yellow
it is
curb.
hard.
Yeah.
Yellow curb, we'd have to talk to Public Works and find out if there's a rationale for not doing them. So we can have those conversations with the chief and the Public Works director and see if we can't, come to a resolution there.
Doreen, I think that asking in the conditions that we look into, no parking and/or the yellow, because as soon as you see that yellow, you can't park there.
Is that our requirement?
No, that would
No,
be.
no, no. No, this is something that it's not even just your street.
Yeah.
It's in these historic districts. It's in the historic districts and with the winters and stuff. I mean, I've almost hit somebody twice on my street on Prairie. So, yeah, so it's an issue, and it's something a lot of small communities have. And with all those street work we've had, which is wonderful,
That's the thing, I think ours
it
needs
has
to
been
be
that maybe
known.
those things weren't taken care of after the fact, or maybe they're waiting for more work to happen, but it is impacting the citizenry, so maybe we just need to take a look at it.
I would bet it's,
Earlier today to talk about whether this was a topic that one of us could come and talk about. And so I learned that this is probably something that needs to be pushed, not under this umbrella, but perhaps under another. So I've started a document that I would send of examples, because the traffic and the traffic patterns on South Harrison, because of Main Street and because of what our most recent improvements, in quotations, have been, and our future, quote-unquote, improvements have been related to North Harrison, South Harrison, and South Harrison that swings around past the tire company, are still in a project coming related to the Highway 51. But it is clear that some things got missed. We've got yellow lines around, like the curbs by where crosswalks, but we don't have them down at the end of the street where the public traffic is on Main Street. And I mean, people riding bikes, people walking their dogs, on the sidewalks. I mean, I think it's just something that got missed, but
here,
And I don't want to interrupt you, but we haven't
Yeah.
stayed within the
I'm
protocol.
just saying, we're well aware.
We
of it.
will
We're
look
happy to
into
help.
it.
Yeah.
We will, or have the appropriate authorities.
I did ask Connie,
yeah.
I asked her to send me a list of them, and I would send them
that's good, because
on.
it is an issue, even if it's not an issue to this tonight. It's definitely, it's an issue for all the streets. I mean, like I said, Prairie Street is an issue where, by the church,
The
so,
yellow line was there when we moved in 87.
yeah.
It disappeared when they redid Harrison Street.
And we've had,
So it was there for
And I
2
think
years.
that's been identified.
It is on my radar. I have asked that it get sent to me, and then I will get it on to the Public Works. I would question if they're not waiting for Main Street to get done. I don't know.
But
But it's not Main Street, it's Harrison where the yellow has to be.
Right, I understand that.
Okay.
I'll send it on, I promise. I don't want to speak
No.
on behalf of the district. Well, not mine.
We will forward it to the appropriate authorities and follow up with them, and we have heard you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We have heard you.
well, I just want want to slip in one more thing. It's not just cars.
No.
We have large trucks delivering stuff to the nursing home and making the roundabout down to semi-trucks that are delivering to.
They can't get through.
And they can't get through. They come up, then they try to take a right, then they go down, they take another right, and that traffic piece is not just about us who are living it.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. I mean, we've talked to them in the past. So the issue at hand tonight is the conditional use. We have conditions on here. Are you comfortable adding that condition on there?
I would add, if you, can I verbatim it to you, just say something to the effect of, planning director will make contact with DPW about adding yellow, no parking areas. Does that work?
Okay,
If we're out of place to make a motion.
we are.
All right, I'll make that motion with the recommendation and. Oh, I'm sorry. Forget about that thing, I'm so loud without it. Yes, I will go ahead and propose that motion as given to us in the recommendation resolution from the director and with the addition.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Farrell. Any more discussion? Commissioner Farrell?
Just language here, the resolution says that the Plan Commission approves the conditional use permit. Should it not be worded that the Plan Commission recommends to council for approval?
We can do that.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, anything else? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And any opposed? All right, that motion carries. So you'll be notified when we get the notice done, so we can let you know exactly which meeting it's going to be on.
Okay.
Thanks for being here, everybody.
Thank you.
You're welcome to stay. It probably won't be as exciting as your project, but you're welcome to stay.
That's okay, thank you.
All right,
Appreciate it.
no problem. All right, and then the next item would be approving the site plan amendment for Blake George at 314 West Main Street. And I'll pull that one up. So what we have is 314 West Main. We all know it as a former marathon site. And Blake and his partners have built some apartments there. And we have a proposal, I believe, to add some room and some parking. And there's a resolution in there, and then there's a map in there that shows the windows that would need to be added as part of that project on both sides. And then there's an updated floor plan in here. And what else is in here? I think that's pretty much it. Is there anything you want to add to this one, Chris?
Remember how it was like half of this is mine, half of it's the other 10, this is one that's the other 10. And my understanding is when these were originally done, they were done as dens. The second space was a den. In order to satisfy the requirement of it being a bedroom, it's gonna have that second egress, so it's gonna show you where those, windows are gonna be put in. And then it's also gotta have, for state code, it's gotta have a wardrobe or closet that's added in as well. Parking, I think, was a concern. We went through and looked at the parking requirements that the increased parking requirements can be met. So essentially, this is an amendment to that original space.
And then Blake George is here. Do you have anything you want to add? If you do, come on up.
Come on up to the,
The mic is still on, so they left it on for you.
Well, that's very kind of them. The ingress, you heard the other people, they had to add the egress windows as well, which we're aware of. Actually, most of the dens already had a closet in them, so, but we are aware if they don't, we'll have to add that. And then, like, you'll see, we hired Chuck Nahn as the engineer, and the drainage patterns don't have to change. Actually, we meet the impervious surface requirements under the code as well. We're under so really, other than wanting you to see it, I think was more the issue. We meet all the requirements, and we'll probably try to do some of this spring, increase the parking. And then we have to get a plan together on how we're going to attack, because you have to cut the siding. But we may do it on tenant turnover, because we have tenants in there. So it may not be something we do right away, because I just don't really want to disrupt their lives. So it would be something we would do and do it over time, but we probably will do the parking piece right away. And then as the tenants turn over, put the windows in, and then we'll call for inspections and things like that as needed. I think we would need inspections and a building permit, so it would fall under all of that.
Any questions for Mr. George?
I just have, if you're doing it over time, how does that work with a permit that is, usually like
I think you get, 2 years?
Yeah, normally and it kind of varies, you're right. You normally get a year to start construction, and then if you need extensions, you can do extensions. I personally would rather have him not interrupting if he has current tenants. So, we could work with them. I guess if you guys want to, I would probably put maybe a sunset clause if you want to, like work to be done by X date, and then with the option for him to come in and extend it. So
Yeah, the leases will roll sometime, and then with the renewal, if they don't vacate, we'd like to put in the lease that we have the right to come in and do this. Because right now, under the lease, I wouldn't have the right. I'd be disrupting them.
Yeah.
And so when the lease comes up for renewal, we want to put the provision in there that we'd have the right to access and come and do this work. That's kind of how I want to attack it. And those leases come up, I think, September, October. And so maybe I wait to put the building permit in, in September to get the 12 months to try to get it. But there'll be some people that'll leave, and then we'll just do it at that time. But it's, was it 6 of the 8 apartments that are getting new windows? So
I just want
I don't want
Yeah.
to like take it over 4 years, but I'm trying to, it's more, if it was vacant, we'd just do it right away. So I'm just trying to be respectful of the tenants, I guess.
Understandable.
So
Appreciate that. And, I'm just going to add, there's some things I know Chris has looked at briefly in our ordinances. You can expect that we're going to be looking at some updates and ordinances and policies and procedures. There may be some things that we're doing now where we seek approval, and others we might just want to be able to do it administratively for the sake of efficiency and to respect everybody's time. I don't know if this will fall into that, but I know there's other conversations we're having. We're trying to decide really what does this body and the council need to approve. Right now, they're basically approving everything, which seems a little cumbersome at times. So, just kind of think about that as we get into future meetings and we start working on that. You guys can help give us direction of what you think is important for you to see and what's not worth your time to look at, unless you want to look at everything.
you could add a lot of stuff tonight and miss the NCAA championship game.
I would really appreciate, though, your input on this stuff if you guys are, because essentially what I'd like to see is there's certain projects that I think it's a waste of your guys' time and the people applying for it. Like it's really minor stuff. If I don't feel comfortable, regardless if it's not in our ordinance, I can send it to you guys, and I will, and I have in the past in other municipalities I've worked in. So if there's projects that you're like, we want to see these no matter what, then let me know. And then we can also look at what level of approval you guys want versus like kicking it up to council if it's, like I hate to, but like that juice bar, I don't know, but per ordinance, we have to take a building that meets all the requirements and then kick it up to council for approval, even though it's in a restaurant district. So like, that's the kind of stuff we need to look at. It's totally not what we're talking about right now, so I apologize. But
Well, Tim had thought that this was capable of just being a staff approval because it falls under a PUD and we were following all the rules of the PUD.
yeah,
And it really wasn't a change to the PUD. It's not an amendment to the PUD. It was just a change under the guidance of what was approved, which PUD is a type of zoning. So really, we were obeying the zoning correctly.
yeah, and this for the record, this has like this is an overall thing that we need to discuss. So
Yeah.
I apologize that
Yeah, I was gonna say, we gotta have to walk a
Yeah.
little bit of a line here.
Oh, I know
Yeah.
you do. But I was the one that brought it up and said, well, can we just do it at staff level? Because I'm not really
yeah.
violating zoning or asking for new zoning.
And I didn't know, so we kicked it up.
We kicked it up.
So.
Plan
but-
developments get really weird though. in
Yeah.
that unless you have a percentage in which the plan development is changing, it almost has to be in writing and it can
Yep.
get real hairy. So regardless, and unfortunately with this one, because there wasn't that like bar,
Right.
I would have done exactly what Tim did. I'm
Yeah.
not saying that
Oh, I'm
it's not
upset
something I
about it.
couldn't have
And-
looked at.
And by the way, I'm not upset about it, and I'm happy to be here and,
Yeah,
and
I
was
know
happy
you,
to-
don't hear
I know
that
you
too
wanted to
often.
miss those games, so it's like,
It's at 8:20 hours.
you'll get out of here by
I'll
then.
get out by that. But I'm not a Purdue fan, just a Big Ten fan. So, anything else?
I don't think so. Any questions from commissioners? Commissioner Farrell?
Not related to this specific topic, but if you're looking at streamlining, if you will, some of the processes, just a suggestion, I don't know if it'll work or not, but there's, in my time on the commission, there seems like there's a lot of proposals that come up that are sort of no-brainers, where you know everybody's going to say yay, 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 yay. And so I wonder if those couldn't just get put on a consent agenda from a parliamentary standpoint, and then, you know, the members looked at that beforehand. When they come in, they say, you know, approve the consent agenda, yes, we approve it, and in 2 minutes, you've wiped out 3 or 4 or 5, whatever projects that might be on there that everybody's like, I got nothing to say here.
Sure. Yeah, and you can always pull them off of there, so that's something that we might want to follow up, and you can give Chris some examples of ones that you've experienced, because I think that kind of feedback would be really helpful.
Thank
All
you.
right, let's back to the task at hand here. So we do have, what was that? Yeah, we do have a resolution in here for this site plan amendment. And remember, site plans only come to this body, they don't go to the council. So if you have any questions on it, now would be the time. If not, I would entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve.
Motion by Caravello and a second by Bradford. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? All right, that motion carries. Next item is annexation for certain city-owned lands in the town of Dunkirk. So this one here, I know Alder Caravello's familiar with this one, and Alder Majewski probably is too. So recently, the city purchased a piece of land right off of County A across from Public Works right next to our park. And we're looking to annex this land so we can expand the park. It's about 2 acres. So the plan is to annex it and then remediate and then remove the buildings and grade it. And for now, we'll probably plant grass, and eventually there'll either be soccer fields there or additional baseball diamonds when we get to that point. But for tonight, what we're looking to do is annex it, and I think Rick's been working on this one.
Yeah, so Tim did a great job of explaining it, and this one actually is noticed as a public hearing, basically because we're establishing a zoning district for it as well. But we're using a simplified annexation process, so because the city owns the land and it's contiguous to the city, it's a pretty straightforward annexation process. There's no DOA approval or review, I should say. So the city can just pass the ordinance and then provide it to the town and the Department of Administration. So it's a streamlined process, but we put it on for a public hearing tonight just to cover our bases, basically.
All right. Any questions? Otherwise, go into public hearing. Anybody wish to speak? No? We open the meeting. Any questions? Pardon me? All right, is that a motion? All right, I have a motion. I couldn't hear you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? That motion carries. Next item is the conditional use for 305 South Forest Street. And this one here is in the building with the Viking Brew Pub building. And on the side of the building, there's a couple units there. Right now, there's Madrigal Threads is in one unit. And then this other unit, they're proposing to put in a place that serves, what's the name of the? Yeah, it's kind of like smoothies. I forget what they're actually called, but yeah.
It's acai.
Oh, sorry, I can't hear you.
They're the acai bowls. So acai is a fruit. It's in the Brazilian rainforest, and it's turned into a frozen sorbet topped with fresh fruits and granolas and different seeds, such as like flaxseed, hemp seed.
Okay, thank you for that. So it's on tonight for a conditional use permit. We're trying to get it through the council tomorrow night because they'd like to get set up and open before setting them eye. So they'd like to have a little time to at least get their operations as efficient as they can between now and May. Is there anything you want to add, Chris?
No, this is kind of one that, they sent in kind of the outline. You can see it in the planner's report. I couldn't even really think of anything to add to it other than the fact that it just needs the normal like approval by engineering, building inspector, fire inspector, and other city departments, and then anything else that you guys see. So they still need building permits, but it's a restaurant that's in the downtown area, which is what we want, so I think this is one that kind of we should look at as maybe a permitted use in like downtown districts.
Yeah, and based on my conversations with them, I know they've already talked to the building inspector and health inspector, so they should be in pretty good shape as far as what the expectations are from them, so I don't really see any issues with this one. Any questions or comments from commissioners? I would entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Motion by Majewski, is there a second? Second by Bradford. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? None opposed. That motion carries. Future agenda items, there's a number of them that we're working on. I know that the 51 apartments out on 51 West on the east side, they're working on splitting the lot there so they can add another apartment unit out there, which was the intent all along. They just have different ownership groups in the two buildings. There's some common owners, but they want to have some designation between the two lots, so we're working with that one. We have a special meeting set up before the council reorg meeting, was it? Next week. So you can either come in here or you can Zoom in for that. And the reason we're having that one is we had somebody that applied. Basically, they're doing a CSM. It's out on Chalet where they built a one duplex that we approved. They want to build two more, and we couldn't make the deadline for the public hearing for the zoning. So we agreed to schedule a public hearing that night so we can keep that project moving forward. I know Chris is still working on some other things related to that, but we can at least have the public hearing, and if we can't get to a decision point, at least the public hearing part of it is out of the way. What else do you have on your list?
I know there is a lot of stuff going on right now, and I've gotten a lot of calls, but I can't remember any of them, and there's a whole file full of stuff that I've been working on, but you guys are really going to be busy coming up. So, sorry, but not really. So-
And there's a lot of projects going on right now that you've already approved. So if you go out on 51 West, on the west side, a lot of the duplexes and the condos that they're putting up we're getting building permits pulled every day. The department's also really been busy. Seems like we're getting a lot of requests for fences this year.
Yeah.
Maybe that's normal.
A lot. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think it is.
So since Rodney and Michael left, I've been monitoring both of their emails, and it's amazing how many Diggers Hotline tickets we get. And we have to go through them all to make sure if there's a fence, they have a permit and they're not putting them in easements and things like that. And then, of course, there's all the fiber optic stuff that's going on too. But so that department's really busy. We look forward to the new zoning administrator getting on board. Chris is doing well. It's just so much to do, and obviously in a new position you want to incorporate some changes, which I think will ultimately result in some efficiencies. And we also have...
Yeah, if you guys see anything that you want me to look into at all, please reach out to me, and we can look at ways to make stuff move faster and or ordinances to review. Please reach out.
Yeah, and one of our goals is to update our zoning codes, and we're not going to ask Rick to do too much of that. We're hoping that Attorney Dregney might help us with some of that. Is a side project.
Yeah, to be clear, he volunteered for that, so.
Yes, he did. He volunteered for it.
I believe that.
Yeah. So I think that we're going to be looking for a lot of feedback when it comes to the zoning. I think Chris feels, based on the email I saw today, that maybe we have too many options to choose from.
So I think we need to look at each one of the zoning districts. You guys have like 10 residential zoning districts, I think, whittling those down. And then the other part of it too is that we probably want to look at not so much utilizing plan development, but maybe making those zoning districts that everybody can follow. That way, like when I get calls, or the next person gets a call, right, 5-10 years down the line, it's really easy to look up those setbacks versus like trying to hunt down the plan development and then go from there. So that's kind of what I'd like to do. So if you guys want to see certain things or you want me to research stuff, please let me know, and I can kind of see what other communities are doing. So.
I appreciate that, by the way, because I thought that plan unit developments were getting abused.
Yeah.
And they were using it as a catch-all, and I think part of that was the reason was that it was a way to cover your predecessor's inadequacies when it came to his abilities to want to deal with it.
So we won't speak to that. But,
no, but
we do
what
look
I'm
at,
saying is I appreciate that you're looking into changing. I'd like to see the PUDs being something as an anomaly and not something that is the norm.
Yeah, I think we're viewing this, it's been, a little bit of a roller coaster here the last few months, but we also look at it as really being an opportunity to get a fresh set of eyes, look at things, extract your thoughts and ideas as we move forward. And, I think it will be busy, but I think that this group has really been really efficient, and I appreciate all the extra effort because I thought it would have slowed down by now, but it feels like it's still ramping up, which is good. Our community needs it. I think the projects we are doing are, for the most part, have been quality projects. But I know that you guys will keep things in check if they start, getting away from us. So I appreciate that as well. But so those are the things we're working on. If there's something else you think we should be working on, feel free to reach out to myself or Chris directly. Other than that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Are we having a meeting on the 16th?
Yeah, we're having a special meeting for that public hearing for Shelley Drive.
Talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
It should go fairly quick, I would think.
Is that 6 o'clock?
5:30.
5:30?
Yeah. And it'll be here. There's a council meeting that'll be going on that night too, because we have our reorganizational meeting for the city council, but we haven't set the time on that yet. We don't know if that one's gonna be at 6 or 6:30, because Park and Rec was talking about doing something too. So we don't know if they're gonna do that before, during, or after. But we scheduled this one for 5:30. We had to schedule it right away because we had to notice the public hearing. So, yeah, I'd entertain the motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. All right, we're adjourned at 7:07.